The moment we were alone, he said this to me.
You should know that I have other dogs. Dogs not confined to this fine institution.
Others?
Yes, very loyal dogs. Dogs who will do anything I ask of them.
Of course, he wasn't talking about real dogs. He was talking about his very human cronies. And then, he said one last thing.
I would recommend that you take care in how you treat me during my stay here. I wouldn't want to have to send my dogs on you, or your precious family.
I had no choice. I gave him that cell. I gave him everything he asked for.
Everything? Wait, is that how he became the Fixer?
Yes, darling. I obeyed his every command and smuggled in for him all that he wanted. Eventually, I brought dear sweet Frankie into our little conspiracy. He agreed right away, of course, because I made things easier for him, too. So you were smuggling in contraband? How exactly? Once a week, late at night, Frankie would shut off the breakers. That allowed me to go from my office into the yard without being seen by the cameras. Then I simply dropped the packages down the well on the prison side and went back through the fence. Each one of them spritzed with a little of my perfume.
So that's what the sweet smell was.
Yes, it was a signal for Canis's dog. When he picked up the scent, he would fetch the packages and bring them back to his master. We had to make sure Rocco wasn't in his cell at the time, of course.
And it's been easy keeping him from finding out.
Oh, we're all very much creators of habit here at the prison, darling. Everything runs to a schedule. Meals, exercise hours, that sort of thing. We knew when he wasn't there. And that adorable little bear of his freezes with fright at the sight of Canis's dog. Poor thing. So there was no risk of him raising the alarm either.
She has oversight over everything here at the prison, which made her the perfect mule. With her on his side, Canis couldn't fail.
Frankie would sneak out again early in the morning to switch the breakers back on, and our work was done. Apart from fixing the time codes on the cameras, which I would do later when I got the chance. You have shared a great deal, Warden. The goddess of justice will surely take your honesty into account. I've been the most dreadful fool. I know I have. I'm supposed to be the one in charge. The day of Knight's murder was also one of our delivery days. And so Frankie, bless his heart, did his usual work with the breakers. But there was no package for me to deliver that day, so I didn't go out into the yard.
So that's the secret behind the Fixer system, and why she was...
The police have been trying to track down his accomplices for the longest time. Even I've had to lend them a hand myself, you know. Heaven knows how many times I've hauled the secretive scoundrel in my office to talk to me. But no matter what I say, or how much evidence I present him with, he simply won't say a word.
That's why you were interrogating Mr. Canis over and over.
Exactly. I was trying to track down those horrible hedge people of his. I borrowed everything the police had of that rotten scoundrel. I watched his every move, intercepted every letter he wrote.
His letters? Then I suppose she must know about his correspondence. Chess games, too.
But no matter what I did, I couldn't turn up any clues as to who his underlings were. Living in fear like this, it's... Oh, you just can't comprehend it. As you have just heard for yourself, Mr. Edgeworth. The words of Warden Laguarde's confessions have cleansed her of all suspicion. Surely there is no need to hound her any longer.
Has she really been cleared of all suspicion, though? Or is there more about her to uncover? There's definitely more. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but this conversation isn't over yet. And I think the goddess of justice would agree.
So you mean to make her suffer even more than she already has?
Unfortunately, her suffering under Mr. Canis does nothing to prove her innocence in Knight's murder. She admitted herself that she knew of and even facilitated the so-called Fixer's delivery. I believe she used the same route to move Knight's body.
And where is your evidence, Mr. Edgeworth?
It's in the fact that the sweet smell on Knight's body is the exact same scent Warden Laguarde uses to signal a delivery. What do you make of that?
Well, that's because we've done it so many times by now that the whole well probably smells of it. Some of it must have just rubbed off on his body. That does match the statement that Mr. Cassarato provided.
A smell. Yeah, always smelled kinda nice down there. Nice? Gee, I don't know. Smelled sorta like dessert, I guess.
His words would seem to suggest the smell had permeated the wall. Urgh! You've been rendered speechless, I see. Then I hereby move to adjourn this session of the court. No! What do we do, Mr. Edgeworth?
What can I do? Is this as far as we go?
Finally!
So we're actually done?
Yes, Eustace. It seems we are. By the power vested in me, this court is adjourned. Who was that?
Come on, Judge G. Things were just getting good.
Fender, are you objecting to my adjourning this session?
No. What a shot at objection if I wanted to do that. You do you, G. Adjourn, don't adjourn. Whatever floats your boat.
What are you doing, Mr. Fender?
Don't worry about what I'm doing. Let's all just take a chill pill, shall we? By which, I mean a square of chocolatey goodness. Anyone?
Are you trying to get yourself charged with contempt of court?
No, my bad. I just had a quick request to make is all. As Simeon Saint's lawyer, that is.
Ah, yes. I had forgotten that you were his real attorney, Mr. Fender.
How could you? You're killing me here.
Can you blame us? You've been making Mr. Edgeworth do everything this whole time.
Right you are, which is why I figured it's time to put in some work.
Work, you say? Somehow, I don't believe you've worked a day in your life.
Then let's say this is me doing some prep work for the upcoming trial. Mind if I question the witness?
Now, amusing, but what is there left to ask?
I've got a feeling in my funny bone that Fif's here has something more to tell us about the killer.
Do I?
Yes, indeed. See, as a major player on Team Simeon, I can spot a sympathizer when I see one. And you don't think he did it, do you? So tell us, who did? Come on, spill the beans. We're all ears.
Mr. Edgeworth, what's he doing?
He's trying to coax Warden Laguarde into giving something away. Ask yourself, why would she go through all the trouble of sending Knight's body on such an odd journey? It's because she wanted to frame Mr. Kanis.
She did? No way.
If he was convicted of committing murder here, that could have been grounds for a transfer to another prison, most likely a more secure facility.
And where he'd be out of her hair forever, huh?
Precisely. She saw her opportunity and seized it.
No. Saint can't not be the killer. That's not fair. I was already the prosecutor.
I know, right? But maybe we should find out what she thinks first. Don't want to get the wrong guy, yeah?
Nice. Now Mr. Winter has to go along with it, too. Well, Warden, are you happy to testify further? Of course! How could I refuse this silver-tongued devil? Eddykins, you have such a way with words.
Just doing my job, thief.
Besides, one can't tell the truth without telling the whole truth, can one? I'm simply dying to tell all Verity, darling. Do say you'll let me. As you wish. Court is unadjourned. I can't believe you pulled that off, Mr. Fender.
Phew, me either. Thank you for the timely intervention. Hey, it's the least I could do. Kay's not wrong. I've been leaning on you hard. And besides, the defense never rests. Am I right? Simeon's dependent on us. Sadly, I think I just about exhausted my reserves of cool lawyer chat there. And we can't foul this up now. Which means you're up to bat, Miles McSmiles. Show him that never rest spirit. I shall.
Fabulous. Then let's get started. Testimony. My truth. I really don't think anyone could have done it but that dreadful man Kanis. There's no telling what went on between him and the victim. Perhaps he simply took a disliking to him. He's certainly the type. But whatever the sort of details, it was him. He stabbed that poor man to death. And then he had his dog dispose of a body. That simply has to be what happened. The victim, Mr. Knight, yes? I did him the most terrible disservice.
Yes, you killed him.
I suppose you could put it that way. If I weren't such a sorry excuse for a warden, this would never have happened. And that's why I have to clean up this terrible mess. Warden Laguarde, as ever, your honesty is truly to your credit. I am certain Mr. Knight is looking down and weeping tears of gratitude.
You've clearly never met Mr. Knight. And since we hear this theme, we gotta press every statement.
I really don't think anyone could have done it but that dreadful man Kanis.
You seem very confident in your assertion. Why is that?
Because all the other children in my little home are absolute sweethearts. They have faith in themselves and in one another. They have faith in the gods, in me. And they work hard every day to better themselves. None of them would dare commit murder.
That's a very touching reason indeed, and I don't believe a word of it.
But Kanis? Ooh, he's rotten to the core. He's the only one who would do something like that. There's no telling what went on between him and the victim.
Knight was being kept in a holding cell, while Mr. Kanis was in the prison proper. What could possibly have happened between them when they were at opposite ends of the facility?
Prisons aren't as big as they seem, you know. All kinds of awful things can happen.
But Knight only arrived 2 days before he was murdered. I can't imagine anything significant happening in that short space of time.
Then you don't know Kanis, my dear. He'd find a way. I'm sure of it. Perhaps he simply took a disliking to him. He's certain the type.
How could he take a disliking to somebody all the way over in the holding cells?
Oh, I'm just plucking possibilities out of thin air, darling. As I said, there's no telling what really went on between them. You're so awfully serious, aren't you? Not that I mind, of course.
Why is she looking at me? Like that?
So noble. So dashed in that marvelous suit. So clever. I can feel myself becoming your biggest fan, darling. I really can. Stay with me, Mr. Edgeworth.
I wasn't prepared for that mental onslaught.
But whatever the sort of details, it was him. He stabbed that poor man to death.
What more can you tell us about those sort of details?
Well, we all know what Kanis once did for a living. I doubt the killing part gave him much trouble, especially as the victim was already injured. His neck, I think. Couldn't turn his head to the right, poor dear. That's what they told me when they brought him in anyway.
They must make some sort of report for the warden when new prisoners are admitted. You seem keen for us to think you didn't know much about Knight.
That's because I didn't, sweetie. And the victim was simply a fun target of that monster, nothing more. I expect Kanis used the chisel that was hidden in the chess set, don't you? Awful grisly business. Just imagine, the man probably didn't even have time to cry out.
I see. Thank you for your thoughts. They were very helpful. Actually, I'd like to hear about them in a little more detail if you don't mind.
Oh, Mr. Edgeworth, you're making me blush. I could chat with you all day. Oh, don't look so nervous, darling. I'm only teasing. Of course, we can talk about them some more. I expect Kanis used the chisel that was hidden in the chess set, don't you?
We checked that chess set. There's nothing of the sort.
Warden Laguarde.
You strike me as being more careful than the image your project suggests.
Oh, Mr. Edgeworth, please call me Fifi, or Sweetie Pie if you prefer.
However, I think you may have been a little less careful than you realize in this instance.
Aren't you just the most adorable little creature? Don't be embarrassed. We're all family here. Come on, Mr. Edgeworth, don't let her get inside your head.
You said earlier that you didn't know much about Knight. In which case, I find it rather strange that you know about the chisel.
Well, of course I do, darling. Do you think we don't check prisoners when they come in?
Objection!
You're not talking your way out of this, Warden. That is entirely irrelevant, and you know it. Knight didn't bring the chess set into the prison himself. It was brought by Mr. Saint when he came to visit. Knight wouldn't have had it with him when he arrived.
What? I mean, of course that. When Mr. Saint came in, we...
Objection!
You checked him. I find that hard to believe. Because if you did, that makes your story all the stranger. If you found the chisel, why did you not confiscate it there and then? Judge Gavel, did you tell anyone about the hidden compartment in the chess set?
I did not.
If no one leaked our findings, then how exactly did you learn about the chisel, Warden Laguarde? Because it certainly couldn't have been when you checked Knight or Mr. Saint on their arrival.
Indeed, such a thing would imply an intentional oversight if it had been found yet let through.
Precisely. So, Warden Laguarde, and answer truthfully this time. Where and when did you learn about the chess set? If you won't answer, then allow me. I submit that you...
Hold it! All right, darling. There's no need to rub it in. You got me all right. I questioned Knight. That was when I learned about the chess set. But please, you have to believe me. I did not kill him. One moment, Warden. This is a significant development. The court requests that you make a detailed statement on the record. Any objections, Mr. Edgeworth?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, darlings. I'll clear up this awful misunderstanding. I promise. Very well. Go ahead, Warden Laguarde. And please, tell the truth this time.
Her lies are starting to wear thin. This is my chance to expose her.
My Truth, Part 2. I said I questioned Knight, but it wasn't anything serious, you understand? I make a point of talking to every newcomer to our little home. Knight was no different. We just had a little chat, you might call it. And after we talked, I had him taken back to his cell straight away.
The more she lies, the more thoroughly she seals her fate.
So it was simply a conversation with a new detainee. That seems entirely above board. Exactly, Verity, darling. I knew you'd understand.
Well, I don't. What proof do you have to back up your statement?
I suppose we shall see, won't we? Mr. Edgeworth, you may begin your cross-examination.
Pressing every statement. You know how this goes.
I said I questioned Knight, but it wasn't anything serious, you understand?
So am I right in assuming that you talked to Knight the night before the show?
Exactly, darling. It would have been around 3 a.m. on the 27th.
3 a.m.? That falls squarely within the window of time laid out in the autopsy report. That seems rather late for a friendly chat. Wouldn't he have been asleep?
Normally, yes, but if you remember, a guard was attacked in his cell. We had to examine the scene of the crime, gather information. These things take time, sweetie. I assure you, he was wide awake. We all were.
Regardless, I find it somewhat odd that you would choose to question him at such a late hour.
Ooh, you're such a tease, aren't you? Anyway, no matter how odd you think he is, I had him brought to me, and that's what happened. Must you really insist on questioning every last thing I say?
Sorry, thieves. He's like a dog with a bone sometimes. I'll be sure to scold him once we're done. Though, would you mind giving us a little more info? Like where you had him brought to?
My office, of course. Where else?
Your office, which is where we believe the body was moved from. Would you mind appending what you just said to your testimony?
Anything for you, darling. It was around 3 a.m. the night before the show. I had them bring him to my office.
Remind me where your office is.
You've seen the sign in the detention center corridor, I imagine. The one that says no entry? That's it, sweetie. My office is just up in there, a short walk from the holding cells.
I understand that you also have access to the yard.
Why, of course. That's where my gorgeous little garden is. Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're saying that's how I moved the body.
You had the means and the opportunity. It's hardly impossible.
Hardly impossible proves nothing. You have no evidence for this assertion.
There is no other way that the body could have been moved.
Surely you haven't forgotten that it was Mr. Saint who dropped Mr. Knight's body down the well.
Yeah, what she said. You're miles off, Edgeworth. I probably shouldn't push this any further for now.
I make a point of talking to every newcomer to our little home.
What did you and Knight speak about?
Oh, nothing much. Just some small talk, really. I asked him about what animals he liked, what his hobbies were.
His hobbies? Then I imagine you talked about chess?
Oh, yes, I couldn't stop him talking about it, in fact. He even had a piece of paper covered with little notes about it in his cell. At least, I think that's what they were about.
So she's seen Knight's corresponding chess diagram.
Knight was no different. We just had a little chat, you might ask.
How was he when you spoke with him?
Oh, he was so open and honest, darling.
What? That guy? Honest?
He was talking about one croissant and promoting a prawn. I suppose he must have been hungry.
And passant and promoting a pawn. It seems he spared no one from his obsession with chess.
And after we talked, I had him taken back to his cell straight away.
If he really had gone back to his cell, he would still be alive today.
Hold it! You really think I murdered the poor man right there in my office, don't you? But what would my motive been, darling? I told you, I barely knew him. I'm no angel. I have my grudges against Kanis, but Knight had nothing to do with that animal.
She really does hate Kanis. Warden Laguarde, I must insist that you append that statement to your testimony.
I'm no angel. I have my grudges against Kanis, but Knight had nothing to do with that animal.
This chess diagram disagrees. Judge Gavel, I'd like you to take a look at this.
Notes about a game of chess. What is the significance of this, Mr. Edgeworth?
It was found in Knight's cell, which is exactly where you said you saw it too, Warden Laguarde. But you didn't just see this game in Knight's cell, did you? You've seen it in Mr. Kanis' cell too.
What do you mean?
Objection!
Oh, come now, don't tell me you haven't taken a look at the chessboard in maximum security. I imagine you watch his every move like a hawk. Or rather, I imagine you feel that doing so is your only option.
If she wants to find out who his cronies are, right?
Personally, interrogating your own prisoners is highly irregular, to say the least. But as you said, Mr. Kanis had threatened you. He put your precious home at risk. That's why you took it upon yourself to question him. You wanted to find out who his dogs were.
And so what if I did?
You also told us that you read his letters, which means you must have known about one key fact. You knew he was playing correspondence chess.
Ah!
And then who should appear but Knight, carrying with him a diagram of a very particular game. We ourselves used that diagram to infer a connection between the two men, and it seems you came to the same conclusion. But in your fear, you took your reasoning one step further. You surmised that Knight was Mr. Kanis' henchman sent to kill you, which is the real reason she had that chat with the Bronxter. If his boss wouldn't crack, maybe he would. And when you questioned Knight, you made another discovery. For there inside his chess set, you found a hidden chisel.
The murder weapon itself.
As far as you were concerned, that chisel meant one thing: Kanis. Thus, you convinced yourself that Knight was working for Kanis, and that is why you killed him. I see you have no more excuses. Judge Gavel, your verdict, please.
Much as it grieves me, there would appear to be little room for doubt. I hereby give my verdict. Bronco Knight was murdered by... In the name of the goddess of justice, who is it this time? Hold it! Warden! It's a joke! It's all a big, stupid joke! You people just don't get it, do you?
I think we've proven that it's you who didn't understand things correctly.
Me? Please, darling. I understand it all perfectly well. Thank you very much. And I understand that there's a glaring contradiction in your theory, Mr. Edgeworth.
You're just grasping at straws now. I have no time for this. Your Honor, the verdict.
I am curious to hear what the warden has to say.
What?
You're a doll, Verity. I just have one last thing to say, then Mr. Edgeworth can declare himself the winner.
You rang?
Does anybody remember a certain autopsy report? Of course. We received the finalized version only this morning. That's right, and I was listening to what you told us about it, Verity, even if nobody else was. You said the wound was 4 inches deep. 4 inches?
Wait.
Riddle me this, Mr. Edgeworth. How does a tiny chisel make a 4-inch wound? Forgive me, oh goddess. I came perilously close to making a terrible mistake. Looks like your theory is the one that doesn't hold water, Edgeworth. What now,
What do we do? It'll be fine. Mr. Edgeworth always comes through. Right, sir? Looks to me like the Mausatron's out of commission. You're an attorney too, aren't you? Why don't you do something? Turn things on their head with a desperate bluff, without the first mind-blowing thing that comes to you. That's something Mr. Wright would do. Look, Detective, I'm as much of a man of action as the next guy. But without evidence, we're up a creek without a paddle here. This might be the end of the road.
We can't give up now. We have to do something.
I'm certain that Warden Laguarde is the killer. It's the only explanation that fits the facts of the case. But if the chisel wasn't the murder weapon, what other bladed weapon is there here in this facility?
It seems we still do not have all the answers, nor the evidence to provide those answers. Alas, we must wait until the trial to see this matter resolved, I'm afraid.
Objection!
Aw, come on, G. You're just giving the killer a chance to destroy the evidence.
Are you calling the judicial process into question, Mr. Fender?
Eep! Nope, not me, nuh-uh. I tried, Miles. Any bright ideas? What is the real murder weapon, since it's clearly not the chisel? Confound it! This question throws everything we've deduced out of the window.
Nothing to add, Mr. Edgeworth? Allow me to remind you that claims not supported by sufficient evidence are subject to the harshest penalties.
It's hopeless. I can't think of anything. I need more time. Loath as I am to admit it,
You can't give up now. Remember what Mr. Fender said? Simeon's counting on us. Without us, Remember how upset he was? He was devastated. Nobody's in more pain than him over Mr. Knight's death. There's no way he did it. But if we can't save him, who will? And what's more, he believes in us. He's sitting in that cell waiting for us to bring him some good news. And I, for one, won't walk away until we have some.
K. Gee, Miles, your little buddy there is quite the motivational speaker. And she's right, too. When you find yourself on the ropes, think of your client. Picture them pleading with you to help them. Doesn't that make you want to fight back as hard as you can until the very end? Think of your old man, good old Gregory. No matter how bad things looked, he always found a way to turn it around and save his client. And you're just like him, right? If there's any way to force a turnabout here, you're the one who will find it. Simeon's counting on you. Judge Gavell.
You seem to have recovered your composure, Mr. Edgeworth. But if you mean to attempt a defense, I would advise you to consider the ramifications. You have repeatedly proposed misguided theories and have made numerous false accusations. If you do so again, I will have no choice but to judge you unfit to serve as a prosecutor and relieve you of your badge for good.
She's right. I have put forward a number of theories that prove to be flawed in one way or another. Have I made some sort of fundamental oversight? Wait, she said my theories were misguided.
Nothing to say? Then the court will tolerate no more of your time wasting. I hereby...
Sir!
Mr. Edgeworth! Give my verdict.
That's it! I've been thinking about it the wrong way all this time. My theories weren't misguided. I was being misled.
The defendant, Simeon Saint.
Objection. I think it's a little soon for that, Your Honor.
I'd say it's well past due, darling. Wouldn't you agree, Verity? Mr. Edgeworth, you may proceed.
What? I'd like to remind you of a few things. The sighting of his dog, Helmut, the fact that he wasn't at the show. These and other factors made Mr. Kanis the obvious suspect at first.
This again, Mr. Edgeworth? You seem almost proud of your blunder.
But what if the real killer wanted us to suspect Mr. Kanis? What if it was all carefully arranged? And what if the same was true of the chisel, our purported murder weapon? Knight had been stabbed multiple times in the same place with a bladed instrument. What if he was stabbed with the chisel after the real murder weapon had been removed, just to leave traces of blood on it for us to find? That was how the killer misled us into thinking that chisel is the murder weapon. But why misled us in this way? Why indeed? Why make us think the chisel is the murder weapon rather than whatever was really used? In order to get Kanis transferred. Warden, you took advantage of what the chisel seemed to suggest.
What it suggested? What are you talking about, darling?
Mr. Winner, if I were to tell you the murder weapon was a chisel, what would you think?
Huh? That Mr. Kanis is the killer?
And there you have it. That was the trap the warden set for us.
Oh, Mr. Kanis has a bunch of chisels. So she wanted us to think it was one of his, right?
Indeed. That was her plan right from the start. To frame Bodhidharma Kanis.
Your reasoning would appear to be sound. Warden Laguarde certainly seems to harbor a deep and abiding hatred for Mr. Kanis. However, I think you know what I am going to say next. That alone is not sufficient proof that Warden Laguarde is the killer.
I knew that wouldn't be enough. There's only one thing that will prove it. The real murder weapon that we now know must exist.
If you cannot prove your theory, then this conversation ends here.
Objection!
If we could just find the real murder weapon.
Objection!
How many times do we have to go over this? We searched the prison from top to bottom. Eustace is quite correct. No other possible murder weapon has been found, so I'm afraid you're at a bit of an impasse.
Objection!
I can still prove my case yet, Your Honor, because it's still here, inside this prison. This would have made sure of that.
The security gate.
I am glad you at least remember what it is. And do you remember what it does?
Of course I do. I'm not an idiot. The security gate detects metal.
Eustace, you are an idiot.
What you means you can't bring anything metal into the prison or take it out. Oh.
Precisely. If there is another murder weapon, it cannot have been taken off the premises.
But nor can it have been brought into the prison in the first place. And so we find ourselves right back where we began.
Judge Gavell.
What I am trying to tell you, Mr. Edgeworth, is that if you wish me to believe that there is another murder weapon here in the prison, you will also have to explain to me how it got here.
Alright, we know that the chisel was smuggled into the prison inside a pocket chess set, but our contention is that the chisel is not the real murder weapon. So if the weapon came from outside the facility, then there must have been a way to bring it in.
Yes, the question of the hour is this. Can you show me this alternate route?
How did the weapon Warden Laguarde use get in the prison? You borrowed evidence from the police to help with your investigation. Is that correct?
Why, yes, sweetie. Everything related to Kanis is with me now. Heaven knows how many times I've hauled the secretive scoundrel in my office to talk to me.
Of course, that's how. The fact that this is here shows us how a bladed object could have been brought into the facility as well. Simple. Mr. Kanis's bells. Allow me to remind you of our conversation with Mr. Kanis yesterday. Yes, it was but one of my bells. One of only two in existence. Just two? Two and only two. One for my knife and one for my beloved helmet. Exquisitely crafted. Utterly unique. My ears are my guide, after all. And I must be able to use my tools. Precisely. Of course, as you said, the knife has long since been taken from me. So you see, there is a way for objects to be brought into the prison unscrutinized, as part of the evidence Warden Laguarde borrowed from the police.
What?
Mr. Kanis's knife was part of the evidence in the case against him, and that evidence was here in the prison. Not only that, but the knife had a certain bell attached to it.
The bell that was attached to the chisel.
Correct. The killer took the bell from the knife and attached it to the chisel.
But that can't be right. The chisel only had Mr. Knight's fingerprints on it.
Easy enough to explain if the killer wore gloves. She made it look as if the chisel was the murder weapon and then attached the bell to it. In so doing, she made sure that all the evidence pointed to Mr. Kanis. And who had access to the evidence from which the bell was taken? Why, only the person to whom it had been entrusted. Who was it, sir? Who been messing with the evidence?
I believe that would be you. Isn't that correct, Warden Laguarde? Halt it! But bells aren't exactly rare, you know. Anybody could have set that up.
Objection!
Unluckily for you, that isn't quite true. These particular bells are unique because there are only 2 of them in existence.
What?
By attaching that bell to the chisel, you as good as declared yourself the killer.
Hold it! But you don't have any proof the knife was ever here to begin with.
Hold it!
I don't. Not yet, anyway. Mr. Winner, I'd like you to order another search of the prison right away.
Huh? But if you do find something, that's gonna make things awkward for me.
This isn't about what's convenient for you. We have to find the truth. You're a prosecutor, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but, you know...
This worthless excuse for a prosecutor. If I had investigative authority, I wouldn't be sitting on it.
Anyhow, it's not my decision to make. The warden would have to authorize it.
You know full well that she will do no such thing. You have the power to insist on a search. Use it.
Sorry, darling, but not without that evidence. The goddess of justice cannot bestow her blessings on those who lack the proof to support their claims. Our work here is done. The rest of this matter will have to be settled in the courtroom.
No, if we give Laguarde the opportunity, she'll destroy whatever evidence is left. I have to object. I have to stop them.
What do I say? I don't have anything concrete to offer. What am I thinking? I'm never this reckless. No, I can't back down now. I've got to put everything on the line. I'm not a prosecutor right now. I'm an associate attorney with a client to defend.
Only I can save Mr. Saint, and that means... Even if my chances are 1,000,000 to 1, it's still worth a shot. It's now or never. Should I object? I suppose this must be how a certain serial bluffer always feels. Right. Regardless, I cannot walk away.
Objection!
Wait, Your Honor.
This had better be good, Mr. Edgeworth.
I've got it.
Got what exactly?
The real murder weapon, of course. I know where Mr. Canis's knife is.
Do you really, Mr. Edgeworth?
I do. Not all.
If I did not know better, I would say that you were bluffing.
You warned me, Your Honor. I don't know the meaning of that word.
This is terrible for my heart. There's no way you could... It's not here, I tell you! Well, would you be so kind as to enlighten us? Where is the real murder weapon?
Think, Miles, think. Somewhere not even the police would search. A blind spot in this zoo. A hiding place that the warden could be absolutely sure of. A hiding place? No. If you insist. Come on, Helmut. Open up.
Did she use the same trick? No! That's ridiculous, isn't it? But the more I think about it, how many foolproof ways to evade detection could there be? Mr. Edgeworth, how long do you intend to keep us waiting?
There's the faintest possibility I'm right, but if I'm wrong, we stand to lose everything. Your Honor, this is where the real murder weapon is hidden. In the yard!
Here? In the yard?
Indeed.
I don't believe I understand. Would you care to explain a little more?
Where exactly is the real murder weapon hidden? On the alligator! Of course! That's what it must have been. Huh? What's the matter, Detective? It's the metal detector, sir. It's reacting to the alligator.
What? How?
The metal detector was reacting to something inside her after all. Your Honor, I'd like to remind you of this piece of evidence.
The chisel?
Didn't we just figure out that it isn't the murder weapon? You might recall that Mr. Canis hid the chisel in his dog's mouth. Would you believe that the real murder weapon was hidden in much the same way? That's right. The murder weapon is hidden inside the alligator in that pond over there.
What? No way!
We detected the presence of a metallic object during our earlier investigation. Judge Gavelle, We need to know what's inside that alligator.
Understood. Then we will need to summon a veterinarian. I'm sure I can get the little sweetie to open up for us. I'd be happy to give it a try.
Please, by all means. Warden Laguarde, the real murder weapon is about to be revealed. Why not do the right thing and confess?
I have nothing to confess!
As you wish. Then you can simply wait and watch as your lies are exposed. Sir, we got it.
That has to be it.
It's over, Fifi Laguarde. The real murder weapon was Bodhidharma Kanis' knife, making you the only person who could have killed Bronco Knight.
I'm not the criminal here. This is all Canis' doing. I did the right thing. Knight was a threat. He was Canis' lapdog. Curse that despicable man, Canis. Why'd he have to come and ruin my perfect little home? We could have been happy forever if it wasn't for him. He ruined my paradise on earth. He ruined everything. Curse him. Curse that pitiless butcher. That awful, terrible, despicable man. Curse him!
Damn. March 29th, 12:34 p.m. Detention Center, Corridor. Prosecutor Thwinner, sir. The test results have just come back. Thwinner? I guess we've all been under a lot of stress. Traces of Bronco Knight's blood were found on Mr. Canis' knife. It's just like you said, sir. Congratulations on a stunning victory.
Thank you, officer. Excellent work. You can continue complimenting me if you like.
Yes, sir. Thwinner wins again. I think I'm welling up a little. With rage.
Excellent work, Eustace. Just a few loose ends to tie up, and we're done.
Huh? What are you talking about? I just solved the case, didn't I? We have yet to confirm whether or not Knight really was working for Mr. Canis. It will be vital to know if Warden Laguarde was simply jumping to conclusions on that front.
Huh?
There's Clueless, and then there's you.
Well, then I guess we better get back to our investigation.
Alright, officer, you're with me. You're about to see the winner win a whole lot more. Prepare to witness first-rate investigative talent in action. Yes, sir. I'm right with you, sir. Can't wait to watch you at work. It's winning time!
I expect this case will cause quite a stir. The attempted murder of a president is news enough, and now his would-be assassin has been murdered.
But Knight never sought to kill the president in the first place.
The truth is not always as important as it might seem, Mr. Edgeworth, in the eyes of both society and the law. How can you even say that? You do not have to believe me. However, as a prosecutor, Mr. Edgeworth is obliged to accept that this is the reality of the world he operates in.
Being a prosecutor is about more than proving people guilty. That's what I believe.
We are all free to believe as we choose, but the law is not to be toyed with for our own personal goals. If you refuse to accept this, then you must prepare to suffer the consequences.
What does that even mean? Wait, you're not gonna take his...
I'm afraid I must be going now. Farewell, Mr. Edgeworth.
Judge Gavell is right. There must be only one set of laws for everyone. But if following the law means sacrificing the truth, can I really do that in good conscience?
Simeon! You're out!
Hi, Regina.
Is everything alright? They did let you out, right?
Yeah. But I'm so confused about what's going on. Some guy just came and said I was free to go, and that I have Mr. Edgeworth to thank.
You sure do. Mr. Edgeworth found out who the real killer is. Wow, really? You did that for me, Mr. Edgeworth? Eep! Oh no, no, stop staring at me like that. I'm innocent, I swear. Don't pull the rug out from under me now.
Stop it, silly. It's true. He saved you. So say thanks already.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth.
And a great big Regina Berry thank you from me, too.
Mr. Saint talking directly to me. Small victories, I suppose. Can I just ask one question, Mr. Attorney? Sure. I'm not actually an attorney, though. I thought Bronco was my friend. No, my best friend. I trusted him. But now...
But now?
Well, it's just... I never knew. I never would have believed that he could hate somebody enough to want to kill them. If he kept something like that from me, then he never really trusted me, did he?
That's not true, Simeon. Of course he trusted you.
No, he didn't. If he just told me, I could have stopped him. I could have told him that hate never helps, that he had to let go of all that stuff. Mr. Saint, I think you're forgetting something. I should show him the thing that proves Knight trusted him. The chess set.
Take that!
It's the chess set I brought from him. Knight had it in a chisel inside. I imagine he meant to use it to escape. What? You mean he was using me? No, he believed in you. He knew he could count on you to bring it, and that you would never be so untrusting as to look aside. I imagine that by not telling you, he was hoping he could keep you from getting caught up in his mess. Oh. Bronco! Why didn't you tell me?
At least you understand now, right, Simeon? I'm sure he does. He may not show it, but Simeon's no dummy. A good night's sleep and he'll be completely over this whole thing by tomorrow.
That's not as complimentary as you think. I'll try. I have to, for Bronco. I have to show him I can become the best animal trainer out there. That's the spirit. Oh, I almost forgot. We're doing a new show soon. I'd love it if you could come, Mr. Edgeworth. I'll be joining Regina on stage for this one.
That's right. The Berry Big Circus is the biggest, most fabulous event in town. You'll have oodles of fun. Sounds great, doesn't it, Mr. Edgeworth? Come on, we have to go.
Well, I'll think about it.
All right, Simeon, we got some training to do. I think it's time you and Regent got acquainted.
What? Regent the tiger? No way, I can't. No.
Oh, you'll be fine, silly. You'll never meet a nicer kitty cat.
I can't. Please, Regina, anything but that. Please. Another satisfied customer. Well, that was really something, Smiles. Talk about pulling it out of the bag. I couldn't have done it without you, Fender. Without your timely intervention, she would have gotten away. Besides, I have you to thank for even being able to investigate the case in the first place. Oh, stop it. Pat me on the back any harder, you're gonna make me blush. Or topple over. I suppose it would be asking too much for you to take this seriously. Seriously? Miles, my friend, I'm always serious. Anyway, how does it feel to save an innocent client? That's what it means to be an attorney, after all. To be an attorney. Gotta say, I had a blast. Reminded me of the good old days. Like Gregory was standing there right beside me. It's been like a zillion years since I felt this warm and fuzzy on the job. That's good? Bittersweet? I'm not sure. Say, Miles, you ever thought about going into the defense game full time? Excuse me? You know, pick up where Gregory left off. Get out there and actually help people. Hey, pal, don't get any big ideas. Mr. Edgeworth ain't about to switch sides. Why not? Coming over to the light side's all the rage. Everybody's doing it these days.
Come on, Mr. Fender, you know it's not about that.
Chill, team, chill. Don't get it twisted. I was just asking a perfectly innocent question. No, you weren't.
The heck you were!
Looks like you got a mean defense team there yourself, Miles. Fender, I am a prosecutor. Yup, and I'm an attorney. You could be one too. I'm serious. Well, I've said my piece. You change your mind, you know who to call. I'll be waiting. Follow in my father's footsteps? Could I really do such a thing? I'm going to become a defense attorney, just like my dad. An attorney, like my father. Me? That's something he might want to think about, honestly. Something he should. That completes the captive Turnabout, though if you've been watching this has been split into 2 parts. Why? Because let me tell you, it's going to get rough. Next time, we begin this case. Turnabout Legacy, or as I like to say, the Inherited Turnabout. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to hit the like button, it means a lot. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell. I will see you then. This is MegamanNG signing off. Peace out. Product provided by Capcom.